What's up, Aventis fam? Welcome to the podcast series Aventis Knows. We are back with another season, and this season we'll be focusing on topics surrounding emotional intelligence. In this season, we want to help individuals understand the difference and importance of being an emotionally intelligent person in the workplace. You are now listening to the first episode of this podcast, Aventis Knows Season 4. This show is brought to you by Aventis Learning Group, and I'm your host, Jing Han. If you're an individual who's trying to find a way around the corporate ocean or trying to hashtag up your game with your career, this is where you should be. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the 5 types of intelligence that you will need to learn today. Let me ask all our listeners a question. When we think about human intelligence, is IQ the first thing or the only thing that comes to your mind? However, if you think that the world is all about having high levels of IQ, you have to think again. Researchers are learning more about the many types of human intelligence and how we all measure up. In the World Economic Forum Future of Job report in 2018, it is estimated that by the year 2022, the skills that employees will require in order to thrive in the workplace include skills that comes along with the other quotients that we'll be learning today. Now, are you curious to find out more on the different types of human intelligence and their impacts? Let's get in touch with our speaker for today, Maxine Teo, to find out more. Hi Maxine, it's great to have you back on our show to kickstart our brand new season. How have you been doing?
Oh, it's great to be back too. Thank you for having me, Jing Han. Oh, it's been good. If I'm saying like it's been perfect, seamless, it's not really true because in life there are ups and downs, which is one of the topics we're going to talk about today. But overall, it has been great. Thank you.
That's great to hear. So today our episode is on human intelligence. So could you firstly tell our listeners what are the 5 types of intelligence that we'll be learning today?
Sure. Actually, if you Google the website, there are like 5 types, 3 types, 7 types. There are definitely the 5 top types. Well, in short form, we hear all the QQQ. So we have the IQ, the EQ, the SQ, the AQ, as well as the CQ. So let's break it down very quickly. So we have a big picture before we carry on our chat. So I think the first one is what we have all heard about for a long time, IQ, intelligence quotient. Well, it started with a psychologist, William Stern, and in fact, he talked about this term way before our time, and it is a measurement of one's ability to understand information. And you can see some of those who they can pick up numbers very quickly, analyze data, and IQ is used widely by many organizations as a job performance indicator. So we'll talk about that later, whether it is the right thing to do or not in the first place. So that's the first one. Second one, EQ. We usually hear people use EQ to scold people, right? They want low EQ, they want no EQ, right?
Yeah.
What does EQ mean? So all the QQQ, they are quotients. It's a measurement of a person's ability to understand emotion, whether it's emotion about yourself or emotion of others. So this started way back in 1990. Yeah? There were 2 psychologists. There's a Peter Salovey as well as John Mayer. So they've come together and they coined this term and they describe it as it's like a form of social intelligence and its ability to monitor whether it is your own feelings, that of other people's feelings, their emotions, and to tell the difference between them and to use that to guide our actions. But they started it, but in recent years, a few years after that, right, also in the 1990s, another psychologist, David Goleman, he came up with this whole framework on emotional intelligence. And he has 4 quadrants. So that will be self-awareness. There is self-regulation, is how you manage your emotions. There is social awareness, and finally, social skills, or known as relationship management. So there is EQ and IQ so far. So these 2, have you heard of them before, Jing Han? Because you're so young, right? I'm sure you have probably have heard of these 2, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. IQ and EQ are the most common one, and that's the only 2 that I've heard of.
Yeah, I know. And you are not alone. Most of us are only aware of these two because they have started before year 2000. Many of the rest that came up, in fact, they started even earlier, just that we never talk about it. So let's talk about the next Q, the social awareness. In this case, the social awareness, we also call it social intelligence quotient, SQ. So this was first coined in way back in 1920s, long before you and I, our grandparents, our parents are ever born. Right? And it was a social psychologist as well. Basically, all the psychologists came up with these terms. And we have his name is Thomas Thorndike. So it's Thorndike, what a cool name. In recent years, that's how I mentioned about David Coleman. He read about his works, about Edward's work, and he extended what he wrote previously, which is on EQ. So to him, he decided that in the EQ, just as I mentioned, the 4 quadrants, he took out 2 of them, right? The social awareness part, as well as the relationship awareness part. He took those 2 and he created this new topic on social intelligence. So it simply means a person's ability to tune in, it's like the radio frequency into other people's emotions and be able to read the subtle behavioral cues, all the little nuances, the little body language. At the same time, they choose the most effective way to respond to that person in that situation. Sounds difficult. On that note, right, do you have people around you, Jing Han, where you see that they all just do not seem to get it when you say something? It's like, no, I don't get it. Have you had that feeling before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, you say A and you say B. Women say that a lot about men, right? You
Yeah.
don't get it. But generally, we do say that, but it's a sweeping statement, which we'll comment more later. So we have 2 more Qs, right? There are 3 so far. The next Q that, well, I would say became super famous since last year is called the AQ, adversity quotient. In fact, this was before 2000. It was coined by Paul Stoltz. Paul Stoltz, right? He is a speaker, a founder of his own company, which is a global research and consulting firm. So he is the leading expert on this topic. He came up with a book called Adversity Quotient, Turning Obstacles into Opportunities. And in this book, he talks about how one can withstand adversity, unexpected situations, and his or her ability to triumph over it. So this AQ is the most scientifically robust and widely used method in the world, especially nowadays, to measure and strengthen one's resilience. Not talking about since last year, the pandemic, right? A lot of us we fell flat and we never bounced back again. But the fact you're here, congratulations. You are still around. Yes, some of us, we either get punctured, we die as a matter of speech, that we just give up. So AQ has become really popular, like nowadays. Well, the 5th and final Q for today's podcast, we'll talk about CQ. Make a guess, what is CQ? Putting you on the spot.
Maybe creativity quotient?
Oh, in fact, that is another school of thought. Yes, creativity quotient is in another group of quotients. But for today, it's about the human intelligence. So the 5th one is the cultural intelligence. But it was a good guess there. So again, psychologists came up with it, right? 2 professors. One professor, Christopher Early. Another one is a professor, Sun Ang. Sounds like an Asian. And they introduced the concept of cultural intelligence in not too long ago. It was in 2003. Yes. They wrote a book with the same name called Cultural Quotient. It refers to the skill and the ability to work effectively in culturally diverse situations. But here, it does not mean that we all have to be an expert in all kinds of culture to say that we have high CQ. It is the measurement of your ability to go into new environments with confidence, and you can make informed decisions by just watching what people do, and somehow how to connect and adapt to that situation. So in summary, all these 5 that I just mentioned, these all are related to our human intelligence. But having one does not mean that you will have the other. For example, just like I mentioned about EQ, right? Emotional quotient. People who have the ability to understand people's emotions, most of the time they have high AQ as well. That means they have very good adversity quotient. They can bounce back because they say, I got this, I can do it. No? They can manage their own emotions. But people with high AQ may not necessarily have high EQ. I'm sure you have people around sometimes when you're down, they tell you, come on, snap out of it. Angry for what? Suck it up. It's no big deal, right? Very high EQ. Like, very low EQ. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that itself is a whole course on its own. 5 different cues. There you go.
Then what are some of the characteristics that we can observe of people that have higher levels of these quotients?
Oh yeah, in fact, I mentioned them briefly. I can summarize here in a succinct way for everyone, to our listeners. So let's start with IQ. IQ, people with high IQ, right? You observe people with that intelligence, they can pick up information very quickly. They can look at all the expenses and look at all the charts, and then within seconds, they say, okay, we have made a profit. The type. And EQ may not necessarily be good in IQ because most of the time we are either or, although there are some of us with both. They are the ones you will know that when a colleague says, I'm okay, it's fine. And then everyone says, oh, she says she's fine, let's go. And then the person with a high EQ will go, I sense that there's something not right. Everyone like, really? I don't feel anything. But the one with high EQ is that I just know it, something. So they feel emotions. It's almost like there are vibes or frequency waves. Woo, woo, woo. There's like, I feel it, I feel it. That's why women generally are known as people with high, with the sixth sense, we feel it. Because as a matter of fact, by nature, women generally have higher EQ. So let's talk about someone with high SQ. So you may think that EQ and SQ are very similar, which is, as I mentioned just now, SQ is an extension of EQ. So EQ is just about feeling people, right? Knowing yourself, knowing others, knowing general ways how to respond to them. But SQ is like Singapore like Airlines. SQ goes one level higher. Not only are they able to read the cues, feel the people, they know what to say and what to do at that point of time. For example, the person with a high EQ may just say, let's not disturb her. I think she's not very happy right now. The person with high EQ will do that. But someone with high SQ will go, I sense something is wrong with it, is going on in your life. Please let me know, and I'm happy to listen to what you have to say. And then when the person shares, right, it's like, I was like, no, but there's something I can do, and he can go. And then a person with high EQ will go, They'll keep quiet, but they not necessarily know what to say. But an SQ, person high SQ will go, I'm really sorry that you're going through this. I wish I knew what to say, but I'm really glad you told me. And the person who's sad will go, oh, yes, you feel me. Because SQ feel just like know exactly what to say. You see the difference there? And then the fourth one, AQ, adversity quotient. So again, you will see a lot of examples around you when we had to work from home, right? Some will go, like that, how? Work from home? I cannot meet my colleagues. And then like this year, go back to office, reverse culture shock. What? I cannot work in office. People who like yum, 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 very low AQ. They cannot take changes. They will complain about it forever. Whereas a high AQ person will go, okay, let's switch. All right, I'm not really comfortable with it, but I'll adapt. They move on very quickly. And finally, an easy way to tell what you can observe of people with high CQ. Well, let's start with someone who is not high in CQ, means low on cultural intelligence. Is when they go into a room, especially in an organization now with multicultures, multinationalities. In the past, pre-COVID, when like different countries in the room, from America, from Germany, and then you see some of them, so many Caucasians, so many foreigners, I don't know what to say. I don't want to go in. They will speak in their local language. I'm sure you know people like that. Right?
Yeah.
No, kill me. I'm not going in to talk to them. Whereas some of us was like, oh, different people of different nationalities, fun. Let's go in. Oh, I noticed you talk this way. Okay, I will speak with you like that. Oh, you're from let's say from France. It's like, oh, enchanté, je parle un petit peu français, I feel a little bit of French. But doesn't mean that I can speak all languages if I have high CQ. It's just that I'm willing to learn. Can you teach me how to say hi in your language? So comfortable. So there you go. That's what you can look out for people for all these 5 types of cues.
I see. Then cannot these intelligence quotients be learned at any age or any point in life?
Oh, I know, right? We all hope that we can all learn it because not all of us are born with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, life is not fair, right? You know that some of us, as a baby, you really have higher EQ, right? You won't, like my mom told me I have high EQ as a baby. I have 2 sisters, and my sisters will make a scene when they need milk. I will just kick the pram, and then my mom will come, and then I'll smile. My mom will go, oh, wow, mommy so happy. Well, it's true. All of us are born with a certain level of intelligence, some higher than the other. But the good news is they can all be improved on. And the earlier we work on them, the better it will be, because when we're younger, we learn better. We have the higher aptitude to learning. Just like, we say cannot teach old dogs new tricks. When we get too old, you'll be like, must change again. That's why a lot of tiger moms and dads will send their kids to a lot of enrichment programs from a young age to improve their IQ with tuition, improve their EQ with public speaking skills, social skills, so on and so forth. So yeah, the earlier you learn, the better, but it's never too late.
And are there any stimuli that can affect our growth in the quotients?
Any stimuli? Definitely, actually, if you think about stimuli, if I put it simply, what can be a catalyst, what can improve, or what can slow you down, right? So take, for example, EQ and SQ. So EQ is emotional quotient, social quotient. It is highly affected by the way we are being brought up, our upbringing, and the environment in our school, our friends we mix with, and the workplace, in our working life. So take myself, for example. My family is very open in showing affection. So when I see my mom, mommy, and then that right? And then I'll hug my mom. And as I grow up in school, I see my friends, I hug my friends. At workplace, I hug my colleagues. And nowadays, cannot hug, social distancing. So it's killing me. And then when people say, wow, how come like everyone your friend like that? And I look at others with less EQ than me, right? Then they'll say, we don't have such culture at home. Expressing our emotions, especially in Asia generally, we are not the huggy. I see your expression. I think your family also not the huggy type.
Yeah.
So it affects the way we behave as we grow up. So absolutely, upbringing, and it's not just the family, it's the company culture as well. So now you're very young, but there are many of us who are listening in who are mid-career. You've been through at least 3, 4, 5 different companies since you started working. You will know the difference based on the culture of the company. For example, generally speaking, Japanese culture are very structured, very organized. Definitely no, right? It's all very formal, standard. And when you go to American companies, they may be more outspoken, but that doesn't mean they're the huggy type. In fact, a lot of American companies have no hugging culture because of how it has been misconstrued as sexual harassment at work and so on. And then because of that, when they go to a local company who's like, yo, bro, sister, let's hug. Cannot, in my former company, we don't hug. It does affect as well. Now, stimuli from birth all the way to where you are.
How do we identify if we have any of these intelligence quotients? Like what are some of the signs that we can pick up to know where we stand in terms of whether we have a high ratio in any of these 5 intelligence quotients?
Actually, it's true. Right? First, I think many of us wish that we can have a magic wand. Ding! I know what it is. Now, I have two simple tips for everyone. I think the first one, the easiest one, is the kind of feedback you get from people who are around you. People whom you know they genuinely care for you, not those who want to put you down. They'll say bad things about you just to make you feel lousy about yourself. I'm referring to your loved ones, your close friends, people who are very honest with you. They don't sugarcoat things and just to say things to make you happy. They will be your first level of feedback to raise your awareness, right? If you have any of these quotients. For example, good friends will tell you if you are very insensitive. Hey, what did you say there? You're very low EQ, you know. She just told you her dog died. You say only a dog, what? Can buy a new dog. What? That is very bad. No social intent. So when you start hearing comments like that, then you start to think, oh, yeah, maybe I need to work on those, right? So that's the first level. You can just hear it. So for myself, as I mentioned just now, my mom talked about me having high EQ, and it's not just my mom, but everyone whom I work with, even our friends at Aventis, right? And I do have a lot of my people who are close to me, they'll tell me, hey, how come you can feel people so well, you can read people so well? So I'm pretty sure in this case that I score pretty high on that. But of course, sometimes some of us need facts. We need tangibles. All this feedback can be very subjective. And not all of us have friends whom we can trust. Some of us are in environments, we are brought up in very competitive environments. No one will say nice things to you, but they will try to put you down. So if you want to have a gauge on how you score on these 5 QQQQQs, there are a lot of free tests on the internet. Just Google it. IQ test, EQ test, it will come out and then you can do it. Cultural awareness test, you can do this right after this podcast to our listeners as well. And then they tell you, fail. Or ding, 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 you have scored high. Yeah, so 2 general ways to measure how you score on all these 5 levels.
Hi Aventis fam, today's episode on the 5 types of intelligence that you need to learn today will be uploaded in 2 parts. So stay tuned to our podcast episode next week to continue to find out more about the different intelligence quotients that you'll need to learn. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Aventis News Season 4. If you do have any questions regarding the topic on human intelligence, do drop down your questions in the comment section below or drop us a DM. We are available on channels like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Telegram, as well as Spotify. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to us for more podcast episodes, and we'll see you soon. Bye!